Hi, I'm Paula Hersey, and today on Profile, we're talking to Larry the Tick Guy. That's right, Barnstable County has its own entomologist, one of the very few counties out there that does have an entomologist. Larry?
The only one.
The only one. Larry, welcome to the show.
Paula, great to be here, and it's fabulous. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about what we do in county.
So it's not just Larry the Tick Guy. You do have a full name. It's Larry Dappis.
Larry Dappis, and I'm the Deer Tick Project Coordinator and Entomologist for Cape Cod Cooperative Extension, which is part of Barnstable County. So I spend a lot of time on helping people on the prevention of tick-borne diseases, which obviously on the Cape are quite serious and increasing. But I cover ants to yellow jackets. So whatever the problem is or question is on the Cape for residents, I'm the guy.
You're the bug guy.
I am,
You're
indeed.
the bug guy. But today I think we're really going to talk a little bit about ticks, the prevalence of ticks on Cape Cod, how to protect one's family,
Sure.
home, yard, pets, and the new ticks that have arrived and the new diseases that they've brought. I mean, we probably could have a show that is a week long just in this subject alone,
absolutely.
but we're going to try to kind of dial it back a little bit so we can give our viewers enough information about how to protect themselves this year. So give us a little background on why are there so many ticks on Cape Cod?
Sure, it's a great question. It's a long-term process. It involves land use management patterns. And over a number of years, by creating suburb housing, what we've done is we've fragmented the forest into smaller and smaller patches. And the way this game plays out ecologically is you get down to a certain critical size and you start losing your top tier predators like fox. They are one of the best predators of white-footed mice, which is plays a principal role in the tick disease ecosystem. So those fragments allow the mice, the chipmunks, the squirrels to all flourish, and they all harbor the Lyme disease bacteria, and they're able to spread that back into the tick population. So it's kind of like microbial ping pong. And so that's why we have the incidence rate of tick-borne diseases that we have, because the headline here, it's not just about Lyme. For just deer ticks, we're up to 5 different diseases that we know of that this can vector. So it's Lyme, babesiosis, anaplasmosis, and more recently relapsing fever, and what we found on the Cape last year in our surveillance, Powassan virus. So, and it doesn't have to stop at 5 just because you got 5 fingers on your hand.
Right.
Could be more.
So you just clarified something. We always consider Lyme disease or tick-borne disease as deer tick or deer. It's not. There's a host of animals, and they are the host for these mites, basically, these ticks. So you look at all the different ticks that are out there now. As you said, the Lone Star, that thing looks frightening.
It is a little bit frightening. So for the deer tick, and the name deer tick is an absolute misnomer because there's 125 different furry and creatures with feathers that this feeds on. So it's a complex ecosystem, a lot of moving parts. The newest addition to the landscape here is the Lone Star tick, which with the help of Cape Cod Mosquito Control, we found it well established in Sandy Neck Beach Park. And now we're finding it spreading out from there. And last fall, I found it in the middle of the Shining Sea bike path in West Falmouth. An established population. So we think migratory birds have played a role here in bringing it in from places like Noshawn and Cuttyhunk Island, where they're well established.
Oh, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about the migratory birds were actually bringing in some of these ticks. You think they're already here, and that's all of a sudden they just popped up because they, mutated or something.
I mean,
like some kind of Star Trek thing.
Birds are great at moving because ticks on their own don't move very far.
Sure.
But they hitchhike.
Yeah. So what are some of the habitats in our own yards that harbor ticks?
Sure. I mean, a lot of people think that, tick habitat, I go into Nickerson State Park and woodsy area, and certainly there's plenty of ticks there and plenty of ticks elsewhere in a lot of the open public access lands. So you have trees that provide shade and provide leaf litter, and that increases humidity. That is perfect tick habitat because you got the other creatures that also are in that system. But if you think about those environmental parameters that I just outlined, you look at a house lot, and you're not going to find deer ticks out in the open lawn. You know, short grass, direct sunlight, low humidity, hostile habitat for deer ticks. But you get into transition zone where the edge of the yard, it might be in the shade, and then you get brush and bushes and trees and leaf litter. That's where you can find ticks as well. In fact, research at the Connecticut Ag Experiment Station showed that most people that get attacked by ticks aren't getting them from a state park. They're getting them from their own backyard. Ticks and gardening, as a matter of fact, go hand in hand.
That's, I think, where I might have picked up mine over the years, having suffered from Lyme for the last 8 months. I couldn't actually pinpoint being out in hiking somewhere and being bit.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I do garden a lot, and we have pets too. So dogs seem to and cats always seem to be the host for some of these. And there's been, how are we protecting those animals as well?
Sure, if we want, we can go through a kind of a stage protection plan. Because our program is based on the 3 Ps. It's protect yourself, protect your yard, and protect your pets.
Okay.
So in terms of self-protection, one of the tools that a lot of people aren't familiar with that I found when I came on board here 6 years ago was permethrin-treated clothing and footwear, which now I've convinced all the major garden centers on the Cape to carry the product, and the word is getting out there. And treating clothing, it'll keep its activity through 6 washings, and it doesn't just repel the tick. It actually, what I found is that if you put tick on a permethrin-treated surface for 60 seconds, on average that tick will be dead in 9 minutes. So it is a real attitude adjuster.
Wow.
It is hands down the most effective tool in the box that we can use. And treating footwear is mission critical. And here's why. About a week or 2 from now, a stage of the tick is going to be emerging called the nymph stage tick. And they'll be with us through the summer months into early August. And they're the size of a poppy seed. And they're down in the leaf litter. So the first place they attach to are your shoes. And this is really important because that stage of the tick is responsible for 85% of all tick-borne illnesses.
Wow.
Because they're so small, the bite is very difficult to detect.
Oh my goodness. So I've always been of the mind that the tick needs a blood host, but it can live on your shoe for a little while?
It can, well, their life cycle is 2 years long. So there's 4 life stages: an egg stage, larva, nymph, and adult. So they have a lot of downtime where they're just waiting for dinner to pass by.
Oh my goodness.
Except for Lone Star tick, they'll actually chase you.
Yeah, well, those things, again, I told you, were really scary. They have fangs and everything.
Well, not quite fangs, but I hear what you're saying, and it's a good way to look at it. In terms of the other parts of self-protection, certainly tick checks are important, and if you unfortunately do have a tick attached to you, you can actually get that tick tested now at UMass Amherst, the Laboratory of Medical Zoology, who we have worked with very closely since I got here. And
send a tick to college is the new program.
Send a tick to college is what we're pitching.
Right.
And that's important because now I think we've convinced the medical community that provides hard data of what people were potentially exposed to. And what we're also seeing is there's a certain degree of co-infection, meaning the ticks are packing one pathogen, maybe 2, maybe 3. We've seen ticks with all 4 pathogens. And that provides better information for the doctor that if you have a tick bite, you're not feeling well, how would these things present themselves, clinically? You don't really know, but now you actually have some information to go on instead of like, well, I don't know, maybe it's fibromyalgia or rheumatoid arthritis, because Lyme disease is the most misdiagnosed infectious disease on the book because it looks like so many other things.
Right. The symptoms are very disparate.
Yeah.
Took a long time to get it diagnosed.
So the tick checks, permethrin treated clothing, and now we look at the yard because you know that's a place that you could have a tick encounter. And for yard protection, there's lots of extension recommendations that you read that move your bird feeders, move wood piles, prune trees, let more sunlight in. And the fact is, Paula, there's no scientific evidence to support doing any of those, so I don't recommend it because there's no data. But I am a fan of perimeter yard sprays, so not the whole yard, but the edges where these ticks would be. And for me, you can get a professional to do this. They would use a product probably like Talstar, which is bifenthrin, which is related to permethrin, and mid to late May, mid to late June, you've covered that window of nymph stage activity. So that's a good 1-2 punch in my mind, but you can do this yourself. You can go to a garden center, get a hose end sprayer, and get product and save a bunch of money.
Oh, goodness, there's just seems to be now, hopefully, this better awareness of folks to understand that, you know, it's not if, it's when. You're going to either get a bite or know somebody that's been by a tick, contract one of these diseases that they are a host of. Let's come back to that send a tick to college thing. So this was I guess Cape Cod Healthcare finally said, geez, we need to do something here, so has ponied up the money.
Tick-borne diseases is now clearly a priority on their radar screen, which is great news.
Right.
We've received 4 consecutive years of funding through a competitive grant program that they have. So for the past 2 years, the grant is subsidizing the cost of tick testing for Cape residents. Normally, a full panel test is $50, which is, I mean, it's still a good value to get good information. But until the money runs out, the test is $15. So basically the price of a pizza.
Right, so somebody can take a tick off of them or off of their pet and send it to college.
Correct.
And it will come back with a report of what that tick is infected with?
In 3 days.
Wow.
Guaranteed. And unlike some of the human blood tests for disease, this is 99.99% accurate. And a lot of people are now finding value in this type of service because it gives them, you know, piece of data is peace of mind.
Exactly, that's a great way to look at it. And those blood tests that you get for testing for Lyme, there's lots of false positives and positive falses, and then you need the other tests. There's a Western blot test and then the ELSA test, and none of them are always conclusive, or some of them are conclusive. It depends how long you've been exposed to the tick bite.
Sure, I do a lot of public speaking events because people want to know. And we're all about prevention and taking business away from the doctors and the hospitals.
Right.
So I tell people that if you follow what we're asking you to do and prevent a tick bite in the first place, that's where we want to be. Because if you get a tick bite and you're not feeling good and you walk into a doctor's office, the outcome is not certain. And that should scare people.
Right, and there can be long-term effects to late-stage Lyme as well.
Absolutely. So we've got personal protection, yard protection, now pet protection. The good thing on that is that there's a number of good over-the-counter products that are available for treating pets. So for dogs, it seems like the leading product is Canine Advantix 2.
Yep.
But there's an alternative product now that came out a few years ago, because these topicals you have to put on every month, and it's like, did I do it this month? And so
the dogs have reactions to it
too. Some do. And now you can get a collar. It's called Seresto from Bear Ag, and you put that on your animal, and you get 8 months of continuous flea and tick control.
And they work.
They do work.
We put those on after having Lyme last year. We put those collars on in, I think, the end of February when we had that warm up and said, you know what, these things, because they can live, people don't realize this, these things live in 30-degree weather.
Oh, one of the questions I get is that, Larry, we had a brutal winter. What did that do to the tick populations? And my pat answer is, Nothing.
Nothing.
And because people associate a hard freeze, mosquito season's done, and that's
Right.
true. But for ticks, what I've told people is that I spent 24 years in the cranberry industry traveling to Wisconsin, where 25 below zero for extended periods of time is not unusual. And in Wisconsin, deer ticks are just happy, happy, happy. And Wisconsin quite endemic for Lyme disease. What they discovered several years ago is that ticks synthesize a chemical called glycerol, and they make antifreeze, basically. And so they can survive for extended periods of time in very cold climates. In fact, deer ticks exist up in Alaska. Right. They're moving into southern Quebec and Ontario. So they laugh at the cold.
Right. Well, there has been talk just recently in the news that the tick season this year has exploded already.
Sure.
You know, part of climate change or disruption. Are we really in for a bad tick season this year? Or is every season bad?
That has been in the news 100 times, and I've had to field those questions. Larry,
Right.
is it the tick apocalypse this year, as some people are predicting? And I've told the media, in fact, that even in a good year, it's a bad year here. Right. We have ticks all over the place on the Cape, and in our surveillance work over a course of 5 years, tick populations vary year on year, but not by a whole lot. And so in some areas, we know that there's lots of ticks year on year. In some areas, not so much, and it's fairly consistent year to year. Right. So I'm telling people, just be vigilant as usual.
Those 3 Ps.
The
right?
3 Ps.
Protect yourself, protect your yard, protect your pets.
Bingo.
Hey, I learned quick, huh?
You are quick on the uptake.
What else do you want our viewers to know about what the county and how important your position there, as well as all of your peers who are working on this, these types of things? I mean, to me, it's an untold, unsung story.
It is. We have a number of people that are masters of their craft and bring their A+ game to work every day. I have a group of colleagues that the best team on the planet, with everything from 4-H to nutrition and food safety to hazardous waste collection events, floodplain management planning, recycling efforts, things like that. And then we have programs like AmeriCorps, county health and environment, like water testing, things like that. Right. So there's a full range of services that are provided to the county, as well as bug stuff. And my phone rings a lot. Business is very brisk.
Right. So you're available to talk to groups, right?
Oh, absolutely. I love to. The more the merrier.
The more the merrier.
In fact, I now average about 50 a year, and this year it's probably going to be more like 70. Either events where I have a display table and I'm there that one-on-one, or a workshop event where an audience. Sometimes they're even taped for local cable access, which is great.
Right. So folks can go to the county's website and find your information. Do you have the extension have their own website?
We do. It's in the process of being overhauled.
Right.
So I don't have a current calendar of events, but that will appear very shortly.
Excellent.
But if anybody's interested, if they're part of a gardening club or a Rotary club or something like that, yeah, we're there.
Excellent.
Anytime, anywhere.
Fantastic. Well, Larry, I really appreciate you coming in and talking to us. You and I are fast friends because, I've been bit by the tick that you hunt.
I do. I'm the crazy guy that goes into the forest.
Exactly. And hopefully, this year people will protect themselves, will protect their yards, and will protect their pets. Remember, folks, it's the 3 Ps. We're talking to Larry, the tick guy, Larry Dappis from the Barnstable County Extension. And please be careful out there. I'm Paula Hersey, and this is Profile.